Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this special edition of HR Mentorship Series. Trust we have had a very fruitful, fun-filled Saturday. Today, we'll be talking about a very important topic, policy development and implementation. HR policy development and implementation. And we have one of our very own committed members, one of our leaders, who has volunteered to share our wisdom, experience, and time with us today, by name Mrs. Mary Adetoye. In the next few minutes, I'll just read a bit about our profile so that we can get to know her better. Currently, Mrs. Adetoye Mary is a global recruiter. She's a training and development specialist with Zipfa Mary Resources Limited. Prior to now, she had worked with remote recruiters as a remote recruiter with Rehoboth Recruiters. She was in the past also the head of human resources, Legend Global Concerns and FMCG, and she was once human resource manager with Atlantic Exhibition Limited. She also worked with Sterling Bank PLC, where she worked in the sales department and with the sales team. She is very experienced and she is also very passionate about learning and development. She's a member of the Charter Institute of Personnel Management and a member of the Nigerian Institute of Management. She read accounting and finance, and she has transited since to human resource management. Thank you so much. It's my privilege and pleasure to hand control over to you. Please, let's pay attention. If you have any questions or comments, let's drop it in the chat box. At the end of this session, we'll also take comments and questions via voice. Thank you. Over to you, Madam Mary.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for this. It's a privilege to be here. One thing I actually love doing a lot is sharing knowledge and also learning from others. Okay, today we'll be looking at HR policy development and implementation. As I've earlier been introduced, my name is Mrs. Mary Adetoye. I'm the head HR consultant, Zipfa Mary Resources. In Zipfa Mary Resources, we help companies to write their policies, we do background check, and we also recruit staff. Okay, so I'm going to go straight to today's topic and what we need to learn. Now, the training objective is at the end of this training, every participant should know the difference between policy and procedure and the steps involved in policy development. Now, disclaimer, this training is based on research, my own research and my opinions on the subject matter. I would advise that before implementing any policy, it is advised that a specialized consultant or a lawyer use it to match with your industry standards. That means this training is not particular to any industry. I'm just sharing knowledge across borders. Okay, so let's go straight. What is policy? Collins Dictionary defines policy as a set of ideas or plans that is used as a basis for making decisions, especially in politics, economics, or business. Policy can be defined as preventive measure or precautionary response. In HR field, when we talk about policy, what should come to your mind are the set of rules, conduct, behaviors, methodologies as to which employees will interact, whether amongst themselves or amongst vendors or clients. So every company is expected to have a HR working policy. Now, I'm not just talking about just for the HR department, I'm talking about the general policy for the company, okay? Policies are guidelines, they are not rules. It's not like this is how it must be done. It helps to provide broad constraints on scope for decision making for the staff and even for the management. It is a procedure, on the other hand, is a more specific statement. Now, I've talked about policies. I said policy is a guideline to guide the employees on how to interact among themselves and the company, the management, the staff, and vendors and customers. When we talk about procedure, we are talking about a laid down statement on how things are done, the steps to take, the tasks, the activities that need to be performed in each of the either department or tasks that needs to be carried out. Now, what's the difference between law and policies? Laws are set standards, principles, and procedures that must be followed in the society. While we say policies can be called a set of rules that guide any government or organization. I'm sorry if I'm very fast, but because the topic is quite broad, so I want us to get to the main points. Okay, procedure, I've explained this before. These are the things to do to make policies effective. Then there are some procedures to be taken in place, to be steps to be taken to ensure policies are effective in your organization. Okay, I'm going to be reusing this so that everybody will see this. Okay, now we're looking at what is the difference.
Hello, ma. It appears that.
Can you hear me?
It appears that it's breaking. Is it possible to at your hairpiece? Maybe to be better.
Okay.
If you remove.
Okay, can you hear me better? Is it clever?
Okay, it appears better.
It sounds better.
Yes.
Okay, so I was talking about policies. That means everything I said before was not heard. Is that right? Or should I just continue from where I stopped?
Just continue, ma. Just continue, ma.
Okay, I'll be talking about features of a good policy. Now, when we talk about features of a good policy, I said one, policy, procedure, and rules should each be clearly distinguished from each other. That means in an organization, as the HR person, when you want to create policies or procedures or rules, they should be clearly distinguished because they are not actually the same. Okay, the format should be structured and consistent for each policy or procedure. The purpose of each policy or procedure should be explained in synopsis form, that means in brief summary. Why are we creating this? It must be clearly explained. Policies on specific topics should be mutually supportive of others in the same organization. That means if you are creating a policy, for example, on attendance in the handbook, everything on that column, let's say you are using 2.0 to talk about staff attendance, everything must be supportive. Everything on that column should be about attendance. You don't need to repeat the same thing on another column. So they must be mutually supportive. Policies and procedures should be consistent, both internally, okay, with stated organization objective and with practice adopted by similar organizations. That what this means is that you don't create a policy today and tomorrow you just change it, next tomorrow you change. There must be consistency in the kind of policy we create, and it must be consistent with the law of the nation. It must be consistent with similar organizations as well, or a public policy functioning in the country or where your business operates. Policies and procedures should suit someone doing a job for the first time. What this means is that anyone that picks up your company policy must be able to understand what you are trying to express at that time. That's why the fact that, okay, this person is new, they must be able to understand clearly what is stated in the policy or in the procedure. It must suit everyone, it must be clear. Wording and format should be clear and simple. I've emphasized so much on that. Avoid duplication, avoid unnecessary inclusion, legalism, and other barriers to understanding. That means as you are writing the policies, avoid so much words that are ambiguous, so that anybody reading, whether it is the staff handbook or any other company policy, they will be able to understand in clear terms what that means. They don't need to go and look for a dictionary to understand what is being written there. If by necessity that word cannot be changed, cannot be made written in simple language, and it is a legal word, what that means is that in the column after writing, you must explain what that means to make it easier. Okay, before issuing it, policies and procedures should be checked and discussed by people who have to use them at various employee level of the organization. There are strong arguments in favor of having employees participate. This is subject to you have some companies that will say, oh no, we the HR department want to make policies. It's left for us to, among us, to decide what is obtainable. We don't need to carry anyone along. Now, what is prevalent or what is obtainable is that you should carry the necessary, if not everybody, the key staff of the organization, especially those in the management team, carry them along in the process of preparing your policy. Now, ease of handling, use, and updating should be provided. Separate sections should be clearly identified. Okay, I'm not going to read so much about this. Now, what's the difference between policies and procedures? Now, I just did a little table to make it understood. What is the topic? Is policy that describes the topic. What must be done is procedure that shows how it must be done. For example, in the machine department, this is how we operate the machine. These are the procedures, okay? What must be done is in the policy. What must be done? Why must it be done? Rather, sorry. Why must it be done? Who does it affect? Is in the policy. Who has to act? Is in the procedure. Who has the authority? Is stated both in the policy and in the procedure. How is action taken? Is stated in the procedure. When is action taken? Is stated both in the policy and in the procedure. Where is the action taken? Is stated in the two in both. What resources and techniques are used? Procedure have to do with techniques and resources. Now, the policy and procedure manual, where an organization has a large number of policy and procedure, there are advantages in combining all of them into a single policy or procedure form. Now, this is why most times some of us in HR will confuse procedure for policy, because in a bid to make it compressed or to make it accessible, it is compressed into the same document. But it's very important that we understand the difference between policy and procedure. There may be either a separate manual for human resource management related topics, or the human resource management section may be incorporated into the manual containing the other policies and procedures for all aspects of the organization operation. Okay, now in creating policies, there are some steps you need to take in creating procedures. First thing is that you need to study your industry or the kind of business and understand what works. You know, if you are new to creating policies, and this training is mostly targeted at people who are either new on their jobs or people who are recently transiting to HR, who are hearing about policy for the first time and you want to write a policy. The first thing you need to do is study your industry or the kind of business you operate or the kind of industry your company operates in. Understand what works. The next step is to appoint someone to coordinate the development work. It could be that it could be you as the HR, it could be someone else in the department, or as most companies do, they outsource their policies. Okay. Now, in the case of a manual for human resource management policies, it must be done by the HR department, or rather, not must, it can be. You can also outsource. But when you talk about other policies, you can involve other departments in creating procedures. You can involve quality assurance to create their own procedure, how they work, the policy that works better with them. And then you as the HR, you go through them and do a final draft. In the case of a manual covering all aspects of the organization's operation, the next step should be a meeting between the coordinator and all functional managers, such as those involved in administration, production, sales, marketing, service. That means as the HR, you don't need to sit as a one man and just develop whether they be procedures or policies. You can involve all the heads of these different units, either the head of sales, head of production, head of marketing, head of administration, and every other person to sit and discuss the policies. You can even ask them to create. After they've created, you people can have a meeting to discuss based on relevant topics. Okay, they can even raise topics that they feel the company should create fresh policies or procedures on. Now, these are the complete steps for creating policies, okay? Creating and implementing policies. Now, the first thing you do when you get to a company, and let's say for some of the companies, they don't even have any policy or brand. and you get there and you notice that things are just happening. Everybody is just walking the way they want to walk. There's no written or stated down policy of how things work. Now, the first thing you need to do is define the issue or the problem. What are those problems that you want to create policy on? Is it about attendance? Is it about staff work? Is it working hours? Is it a dress code? Is it health? Any aspect. The first thing you need to do first is to identify or define this problem. Now, the next thing you need to do as someone that is new in creating policies is you need to gather necessary information on this issue. Thank God for Google. Google is there. You can make research. For example, the Nigerian labor law document is also there to assist in the event of salary payments. What does the law say about labor? What does the law say about work? What does the law say about break time? You know, when you go to some companies that people mention Nigerian labor law, you see you are saying something like out of the blue, because some of the HRs there are, sorry to say, they are people that don't update themselves. So it is very important that in creating policy, you carry along the state, federal laws, Nigerian labor law, other regulatory laws, and carry out educational research on that topic that you want to work around and find out what is obtainable. Like I said, policy is not something you sit down and just draft and pass it into law. No. Another thing is you need to secure recommendation. What do I mean by secure recommendation? You can relate with lawyers or consultants that are into HR policies to find out this is what I think this is what I want to do in my organization. I started working here newly. I noticed this. What do you think about this? So the person or the consultant or the lawyer will tell you what is obtainable based on Nigerian labor law or other regulatory laws. In the aspect that maybe there's no written law for it, you also need to look at what do you think is the right thing, because there are some aspects you might want to make a policy on, and you can make a research and as if there's nothing really mandatory on it. It's not in Nigerian labor law, it's not stated, or that aspect is not yet covered. You still need to find out what is obtainable. Okay. Now, another thing you need to do is you discuss and debate at management level. You've written this, you've gotten a recommendation from other HR personnel, you've gotten recommendation from lawyers, consultants. You now sit down and discuss this at a management level. For example, I remember a time in my last organization I worked, we decided to look into the issue of paternity leave rather for the fathers, because that's outside Lagos State. Okay, and there's no law governing the state that says men are entitled to paternity leave. So we had to look into it, and as the HR, I discussed with the management level. I'm like, okay, let's give them 3 days. But the men that were there were like, if women are being given 3 months, why are you giving women only 3 days? First of all, we're the ones that run around for the woman for her delivery. We have to stay with her in the hospital. So, but at the end of the day, we agreed at 5 days. Now, there are some things that are not, as in placing policies. Another thing you must remember is not to be so rigid. Okay, you must make room for some flexibilities. Yes, some things are obtainable based on Nigerian labor law, but you must also look at your industry and find out what works. Okay, let me also give another example. When I started working at Atlantic Exhibition, most of my experiences have been in the corporate world. I've worked in the bank. Most of the companies I work have been corporate. We're used to wearing suits Monday to Friday, or Monday to Thursday. Getting here, I now notice that people don't like dressing corporate. You know, I was not like, no, this has to be effective, because this is an organization. It's not proper seeing someone wearing jeans on a Tuesday. It's not normal. Okay, I now sat down to discuss with the MD about it, because I, for one, I like collaborations. I like discussing before implementing. I was not like, this is my observation as regards dress code here. I'm not so comfortable with it. I don't know why it has been like this for a company that has been in existence for 8 years. Why is it not implemented? Now the MD opened up to me that, well, he doesn't, that to him, there's no big deal about dressing corporates, that for him, what counts is results. So that it doesn't mean anything to him if somebody wears suit to the office Monday to Thursday and the person doesn't produce results. So imagine if I've gone ahead to make that kind of, implement that kind of policy after going through all the processes and it's rejected. Okay, so what we now came up with is, okay, fine. It's important that staff still look corporate at least once in a while. So we now made a law that Monday, Tuesday, corporate dressing, Wednesday, light corporate, Thursday, Friday, dress down. So it's very important that you carry key staff, those in the management level, heads of departments, carry them along while you are making these policies, so that they will also give you suggestions, especially if you are new. Believe me, you don't want to go into a company newly and start making a lot of changes. Not only will you make a lot of enemies, you make a lot of errors, because you need to understand the industry. Like I said, this industry is into exhibition, and that was my first time working in exhibition. So the question was that people that have to go for exhibition, why do they always have to dress in suits? People that have to go out there to look for people, companies to buy up goods, why do they have to dress up in suits? All they need to do is dress nice, look nice, and that's all. Okay, now the next aspect for this type of implementing policy is drafting the policy. Now, as someone that is going to be writing policies, it's very important that your composition, you have to take note of your sentences. Make sure you write well. That's why most people do outsourcing. If you have the type, everybody must not know how to write well, because the language is also very important. There are professional languages of communication. You don't just write something for the sake of writing. Okay, I'm going to digress a little. I went to a company for training, and I saw the rules and regulations, the former HR rules, and it was so funny. You see some things and you just know that the person that wrote this is not professional. I'm not trying in any way to bring anyone down, but I'm just trying to tell you that as a HR person, before you put anything out there, if you are not so sure, after drafting, give it to someone to edit, to read through for you. Okay, that's the next step. You make revisions. You hold a second reading. Call all those people together again, the key staff. Oh, this is what, based on our last revision, we said this is what we are going to change. This one is not okay. This is what we need to bring in. You guys will now sit down and adopt the policy depending on the structure. For example, if you are dealing with a startup, a one-man business, you don't really have so many people to contend with. But if you have to deal with big industries, you definitely know that it's going to take a lot of procedures and protocols for the policy to be adopted. So that is why I said from the beginning, carry everyone along, all the necessary people along, so that you will not be frustrated along the line. Okay, after you've adopted the policy, mind you, anything you are doing is very important that you also carry, if it's a startup, the CEO or the MD of the company must be aware, so that he doesn't come one day and say, oh, I don't know when did this policy come up? I'm not aware of it, please cancel it. It can be very embarrassing for you as the HR. You sent out memos, you sent out memos, and maybe you started working on the new handbook and some new policies, and the MD comes and cancels it. So it's very, very important that you check, you carry everyone along, like I said before. Okay. Now, the next thing you need to do is, you distribute. The aspect of distribution is the aspect of creating the handbook, distribute to different departments, those that need to know. Okay, like I always tell people, there's something I need to talk about before I skip it, especially for those that are new. I'm talking about discussing at the aspect of gathering necessary information. I'm going to go that in the option 2 anyway, so let me just move on. Sorry. Now, oversee policy implementation is one thing to have implemented a policy, but you also need to oversee it. I created a policy on attendance. Staff need to resume 8:30, or due to Lagos traffic, we now review the resumption hour to 9 a.m. in the morning. Do I oversee to ensure that staff really come in 9? Or are there some people still coming 9:30? Are there some people still coming in 10? Now, another aspect is oversee future policy review and modification. You need to look at this thing I did, is it really working? Because it's one thing to create the policy, it's another thing to achieve the purpose for which the policy is created. So if the created policy is not achieving its aim, it is defeated. And when it's defeated, there is nothing wrong with changing back. I'm not saying changing back constantly, but if you create a policy and it's adopted and you find out the purpose is defeated, there's nothing wrong with changing policies again. Okay, what do I mean by that? I remember a time where I was working, I got there and the staff resumed 9, they resumed 10. I was like, I'm not used to this. Back in the banking industry and other places I work, you're supposed to be in your office by 7:30 latest. But I got here and they find it normal to stroll into the office by 9, by 10, you know. I was like, wow, what was all this? Now I had a meeting with the staff. Guess what they told me? Because we close late. That is why we resume late. Oh, out of human sympathy, and I'll say, okay, I guess I understand with you. It's really not nice for staff to don't close late. I now made the law, I now made the policy, carried the MD along. It was a startup actually. Carried the MD along, carried all the head of departments along. This is the new, everybody was excited, we passed it into BO. Guess what? 1 week they came early, everybody was early to work. Oh, because once it's 5, HR say once it's 5, nobody should stay in the office. Yes, 5:05, everybody should be out. So for that first week, they responded. But by the second week, I realized that some people were last. I was now wondering, why didn't this thing work? I now realized that people come late, not just because they close late, but because it is a habit. It is a habit, not about I close late from work. Yes, that can also be part of it. But people come late because it is in their character to come late. So what I now did, I didn't change it because I, for one, when I got in there, I was like, oh, I don't want this issue of deducting staff salary based on the Nigerian labor law. It's not right. It's an illegal deduction. But guess what? I realized that the fear of salary money deduction was what solved the matter at the end of the day, because I didn't want to go through that route. But when I realized that the policy that was created about closing early in order to help staff resume early did not work, what did I do? I needed to create something else. The moment I announced that, oh, we are going to be doing deducting 1% from your salary every day you come late, what we do is 3 days grace in the month. After 3 days later on in the month, we start the deduction. Despite the fact that it was a little token, but I realized that it prompted a high level of response. Nobody wanted their money to be touched. Definitely in a place like Lagos, even 100 naira matters a lot to staff. So I now realized that, wow, this works. And believe me, it worked till I led that organization because nobody was willing to come late. And I told them, if for any reason you will be late, grace of 15 minutes. After that, if you find yourself stuck in traffic, call me. If possible, do me a video call. Let me see that you are actually stuck in traffic. Not that somebody is just leaving their home or lying on their bed and telling you stories of I'm in traffic. Because I realized that here in Lagos, a lot of people use traffic as an excuse a lot. So it's very important that as the HR, after you make this policy, you must follow it up. If not, it just ends up being a document. You just leave it there. So it's very important you follow up with these policies, oversee the future policy review and modification when necessary. Okay, another one I said, other crucial steps in the process of preparation are the following. Option 2, inform key employees by memo. Tell them, okay, we are going to have a meeting today. I want us to discuss. There are some issues I see as become very prevalent. I want us to handle it. Now, after you discuss that with them, if it's the one that is so technical, like I said earlier, please involve technical experts. There are some policies you don't just sit in the office and they find out what is obtainable in the market, okay? Now, I say drafts of policies should be reviewed by technical experts. For example, legal scrutiny of policies, such as those relating to equal opportunity, sexual harassment, dress, smoking at work, retrenchment, discipline, and divulging of company secrets will be desirable, okay, as it is possible for policy statements to be used as evidence in court case. Okay, like I said, if you are new to drafting policies, relate with other HR who are well versed in that, relate with consultants, relate with lawyers, okay, that will help guide you properly. Now, functional managers who are affected by policies and procedures should also be given the opportunity to review. There's something I always tell some HR, I do say, if you don't know about a particular thing, don't think that because you are a HR gives you absolute knowledge. No, being a HR person does not give you absolute knowledge. For example, I was in a training where I was training as a HR assistant. So yeah, I told them that, for example, you are the HR of a furniture company, and there are installers. There is a head of department for the installation department, and you as the HR, you really don't know anything about installation. How do you now think you just sit down and make policies based about installation or procedures about installation without involving the necessary people? You end up in error, because now, in as much as yes, Google is there to help us, it doesn't mean that everything is on Google. Your company activities are not on Google. So you need to relate with the humans you work with to find out what is prevalent. Before you make a policy procedure for installation department, bring the main guy in, the manager, let him or her be the one to draft out this policy while you review and make, you discuss and make necessary adjustment, because there are sometimes you make some policies and you come to a meeting and you are trying to discuss it, they will embarrass you and you end up, you now start feeling, oh, what is wrong with these people and all that. So instead of, for you to prevent that embarrassment, the knowledge you don't have, especially for those of us, those of you rather, or yeah, those of us, I like using us, that going into new industries we are not so familiar with, it is very important that you liaise with the managers there, the people that know a lot about that department, to know what works there. If you are the type you are not used to, you don't know anything about sales, you don't know anything about marketing, how would you train salespeople? How would you make policies for that? So even as much as you relate to the manager, it's also very important that you upgrade your knowledge as a HR person, because HR is one field. Why I got interested in HR is that personally, I'm someone that like learning a lot, upgrading my learning, upgrading what I know, and I realize that HR gives me that opportunity. HR gives me the opportunity also to impact knowledge into others. So as a HR person, it's very important, you must always be updated, okay? A policy, you can create a policy review team as you want to, depending on how there's no particular structure for this. Just know what works for you, and depending on the size of the organization, okay? Create a policy review team, sit down there, let them go through the draft. This is what works, this can work, this will not work. Okay, I'm not trying to say you must always bend to the rules of the staff, because mind you, as HR, you will always have people that are opposing you. So I'm not saying that everything they say you must go with it. But if somebody is telling you that this will not work in my department, and they give you credible reasons why this policy will not flow in the department, you need to listen. For example, telling marketers, oh, every marketer, you are going out once it's 9 a.m., leave the office and return by 4:30 to close by 5. The head of department of marketing will come up and say, no, you don't expect these people to leave office by 9. Some of their clients will also come in to that they will need attention, okay? Employees who are actually doing the job can be encouraged to review some drafts or even write the draft for themselves. So you can give them the opportunity. This is your department. That's why the managers are there. I used to tell people, I say, if you have to do the work of a manager for every department as the HR, that means you are managing the managers. You are not giving them opportunity to showcase their ability. So that's why the fact that you are the HR, still give people the opportunity to function in their capacity, to function in their departments accurately. Okay, at least a second set of drafts should be prepared and reviewed before the manual is finalized. The reviews can be used to eliminate problems such as duplication, ambiguity, internal control weaknesses, inconsistency, topics which do not require policy. There are some topics that are not necessary. Like I said, okay, maybe I've not said it here. There are some policies that are not necessary. Just identify the ones that are very necessary and create a policy, create those policies. If you want to create a policy on all of these issues, you wear yourself down as a HR. So it's very important to identify the topics that are necessary. Instead of writing a policy about staff drinking water, no staff should be seen drinking, some of those things can be ignored. Some of them, you can send a memo just once and it's okay. You don't need to start putting it into writing and creating documents for that. Okay, like finally, policy should be finalized. What do I mean by finalized? All corrections, all editing, all errors, both the grammatical error, the one that needs to be changed, look into it and before you make your policies. Okay, find out, and I always encourage HR persons because that's what I do. Do something like an employee survey before you create a policy. You can do an employee survey on a particular matter and do it anonymously. Create a document anonymously, but nobody should put their name. Why do you come late to work? I'm just using that example because in some companies it's very prevalent. Then you, from the responses you gather, you find out if the excuses are tangible enough or they are just flimsy excuses, and that will guide you to the law, the policy you create. Now let's look at what are the importance of policy. We're talking about policy. What are the importance of policy in an organization? Number one, policy provides guidance, consistency, accountability, efficiency, and clarity on how an organization operates. If someone comes into your organization and they come across your handbook, it already gives them a guidance to the kind of organization you operate, to the kind of people that are there. It provides guidance for a new staff. That's why it's very important that when in the process of onboarding people, onboard them on the company policies. After giving them their offer letter and the course of onboarding, give them a copy of the necessary company policies or your staff handbook. Let them read through it. And I always say, even in the offer letter, there are some policies that are not obtainable in other industries. Ensure you add them to the offer letter so that you don't have someone take up a job, read through your offer letter, and at the end of the day, they now come in, you now tell them, this is how this works. And that is why it's very important that your offer letter states your resumption time, closing time, days of the week you work, dress code, if possible. It's not everybody that is used to dressing corporate. So if you do not state it in your offer letter, I know that if you want to state everything, it might be ambiguous, but you just need to look for a way to make everything clear so that whoever is reading that offer letter at that point can decide whether to take up this offer or not. It's not when a staff resumes in the process of onboarding, you now start telling the person, we actually work on Saturdays. There will now be displays of, but I wasn't told this during the interview. It's not stated on my offer letter. And I say, it's actually what we do. No, as a HR person, remember, policy is not only handbook. Policy is not only the other documents you keep. Even your offer letter is a form of policy too for an incoming staff. Let them know what they should expect when they come in. Okay, efficiency, clarity on how the organization operates. Now, they serve as important form of internal control. Internal control for staff to staff, between staff and management, between staff and vendors, staff and clients or customers. Is a kind of control. When I come into this organization and I read the handbook, I definitely know that, okay, this is what they don't do. This is what they do. It's helped me to set my boundary. It helped me to be able to control the limits of my work. Okay. Another thing is that it sets expectation. This is what the management is expecting from staff, and this is what the staff is expecting from management. You can't come in your offer letter and you not talk about holidays. Then when the staff resumes, you now start telling them that you people don't recognize holidays. You know, that is a basis for is demoralizing. I know someone that took up a job and immediately after the onboarding, she wanted to leave the job because some things that were not common, you know, in the industry she was coming from, and probably similar industry, that same industry she got the job, she was now being told, we don't recognize holidays, they will work even on Christmas Day. It is during the interview, you should let the person know that, okay, set the expectation of the company, tell the staff why this is happening, so that if the person will take the offer, they will. If they won't, they won't, okay? They set expectation. Now, one other thing policy does is that it keeps management accountable. I've once worked with an MD who thinks you just wake up one day and tell staff this or change things. No, I now have to bring out the company policy as regards that and say, sir, this is not what is stated here. Doing this might cause an issue for the company. So it keeps management accountable, both to their promise and yes, to their promises. A company that says, okay, we pay salaries 26 and is already stated in the company policy, definitely they will have to keep to it. Ensure compliance with the law. Yes, policies ensure compliance with the law. That's why I said before you draft any policy, you must make sure somebody is raising hand. It's not yet time for question. You must make sure your policy complies with the law. Okay, I'm seeing that some people cannot hear me very well. Okay, I'm going to try and speak louder. I'm already shouting where I am now. Okay, please, Mr. Oluyemi, please confirm if you can hear me now. I just increased my volume.
So generally, we are struggling to hear you. I think maybe it's the network is cranky generally. Maybe if you take away the video, maybe it will improve your bandwidth. Or if you can change your network provider. Otherwise, we'll just bear with it till the end.
Okay, sorry, I just put off something now at the background. I don't know. Can you hear me better now?
It's better.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, so another thing policy help you, why is very important. I used to tell HR people, once you come into an organization, the first thing you need to do, aside monitoring other aspects of HR, is very important to ensure that the company has policy, written down policies. I'm not talking about verbal policy, written down policies. Why? Because it's very important and is a protection for you too as the HR. It will protect you in the case of litigation from any employee to the organization, okay? Now, another thing is it can help defend against employees' claim. Yes, that's the place I'm coming to. When employees say, oh, no, the company said this is how they do it, we work only Monday to Wednesday, you open, if it's in the court of law, you open your handbook and you show them that it's not true. So it's very important for you as the HR, in order to protect yourself, that you ensure that there are written company policies. Okay. Another thing is it helps employees know where to turn to for help. When employees are stranded, they don't know exactly what to do in a particular issue. For example, in the issue of false accusation, what should I do? Do I go straight to the HR? Do I relate with my direct manager? Do I send a mail? They will know exactly what to do. They know where to turn to for help without coming to you as the HR every minute. Because at times, if those policies are not there, they will wear you down as the HR, because you see people always coming to you, HR this, HR that. But if you have a point of reference and you encourage them to use it, you train them to use it, at any point, when there's any issue, they will always make reference to the handbook. Okay, the list is really is not exhaustive, but that is the part I can take for now, while we move to the next part. Okay, now we're looking at drafting policies and procedure checklists. What are those checklists you need to look at? Okay, what are those things you need to look at when you are drafting both policies and procedures? Okay, A policy should cover most possibility, not all. Like I said before, it's not possible to have policy for everything, every aspect of the what staff do, what they don't do. You can only have for basic aspects. We'll look at that shortly. If there are major or complicated exceptions, refer to them briefly in the statement, but cover them in detail elsewhere. If not, you see that the handbook will be overly bulky. So there are some things you can just write briefly on the handbook and make a cross-referencing to another document still in the company, okay, so that you don't have a handbook of 150 pages. Your handbook needs to be easy to carry so that it will be easy for them to read. Avoid legalism and excessive wording. I've said that before. Otherwise, there will be too many references to the human department for interpretation. They will now come to you. What do you mean by this? What do you mean by this? So just make it simple as much as you can. Use subheading to distinguish between sections and topics within the one statement. If you are writing, I'll soon tell you the breakdown of how to write policies. Now, use the active voice rather than the passive voice, as it sounds more positive. You can still use the passive word when you wish to de-emphasize some aspects, okay? The tone used is also very important. The tone we use in creating our policies. You know, you read some company policies and you just, what will hit you from the tone of the writer is, you know, you just know this person is very authoritative. You feel attacked. Yes, that's the right word. You feel attacked, you know, as a staff. You just come in and you read the handbook. So the way it is written, it's as if you are quarreling with whoever. You know, you see some policies, staff must, you know, you don't really need to use all those, you can use words like every employee is expected. So in as much as you are trying to make emphasis, you must also try to be polite. That is also very important. But I'm not saying in the case of disciplinary measures, you cannot say, for example, you can't say you cannot say an employee caught accused of fraud and found guilty may be arrested. No, that's not what I mean. That one is a certainty. So you have to say will be arrested. That is a definite. Okay, so I'm not trying to say in the process of writing your policies, you should sound beggarly, you should sound too firm. I'm only saying be flexible, be polite, okay, and make sure the person doesn't take it. Don't sound too personal. Remember, you are just there for a while, but this document will speak for you after you've gone, okay? Now, thus, policy and procedure statements may make the organization appear friendly, consigned, autocratic, bureaucratic, legalistic, sexist, participative. It is also very important that while you are writing your policies, you try not to sound autocratic. You don't sound sexist, like you favor guys more than ladies, or, you know, make it friendly, make it consigned, be concerned about staff welfare, okay? Okay, I'm not going to read everything because it's virtually what I've just said now. Okay, now, what are the popular techniques in writing policy? We have a step-by-step approach. You list it, 1.0. This is how it goes from here to here, chronological sequence. You have a flow chart. I'm so sorry, I was supposed to insert the flow charts. I hope next time. A flow chart presentation, it shows the relationship between each event, but may become complicated and space consuming and therefore confusing. Now, find out what works for your organization. For example, if you find out that in your organization, you are dealing more with unskilled workers. When I say unskilled, I'm talking about people that are not so learned. Try not to write a policy that involves too much grammar. Just break it down, make it simple, make it easy. You know, easy for anybody to understand. Don't try to, in the process of trying to make it look legal, try to make it look good, you now end up confusing the staff, okay? We have the last part, which is the play script style. Okay, now I'm going to go straight into what a copy, is not exhaustive anyway, what a policy document looks like. I'm going to raise some policy topics or procedure topics. Remember, I told you that policy is different from procedure. Some companies keep their procedure documents differently. Procedure is the way and manner, while policy is the attitude, the guideline for which staff interact with each other, interact with vendors, customers, and management, vice versa. Okay. Now we're looking at when you want to prepare your policy document, you have to look at the overall philosophy of the organization. You know, what is it about the organization? A general introductory statement about the organization's approach to human resource management. What are you people into, and what is your philosophy? Do you believe in integrity, or is hard work your number one philosophy for staff? You know, you need to state it there. Another aspect that your policy needs to cover is recruitment and hiring. Now, mind you, this is not in any particular order, please. I am not saying it must follow this sequence. I only listed out the aspect that needs to be covered. So it's not in any particular sequence. Now, talking about recruitment, hiring, and induction, what is a policy for recruitment? Do we, as a company, is it the in-house HR that is responsible for recruitment, or do we outsource recruitment? It's very important you state that. And if you happen to get to a company as the HR and you see that, okay, they outsource, that makes your work easier. Yeah. Okay. What is the policy for hiring? What's the policy for induction? Yes. Then you can name that one 1.0. Your 1.1 now, you now have sources of recruitment. What are the sources of recruitment? Do we depend on referrals? Do we use outsourcing? Do we any other process, any other method of recruitment anyway? Methods of recruitment, is it internal or external? Do we ask staff who are qualified do we promote them to this level, or do we get people from outside afresh to fill this role? Okay. Now, approval to fill vacancies and new position. Who gives the approval? Is it the MD? Is it the head of HR? Who gives this approval? Method of selection. How do we go through our interviews? How many interview processes do we have? You know, when I hear some companies saying that they have 5 or 6 interview procedures, well, I'm not going to say every company have how they run, and they may have their reasons for having all those numerous steps of interviews. But I, for one, I think 3 is okay. The first one could be virtual or even phone screening. The next one, you have a one-on-one with the person. The last one should be with the top management or with the MD. There's no point having so many interview processes. Though I believe companies that are doing that, they also feel they are justified, okay? So I'm not saying that to say it's wrong. I'm only saying my own opinion. Okay, now, what are the kind of questionnaires we use during our interview? What are the kind of testing, reference checking? Who does our background checking? You know, just like we do for companies in Zipamiri Resources, we help check out candidates' background. So do we do this? Do we do this ourselves, or do we outsource the background checks? The employment of ex-employees. Does the company allow an employee who has left before to come back? On what condition? Are they going to do fresh recruitment? Is it going to be a fresh recruitment process? Are we going to do it based on their past records to look at what they've done before and place them on the same position? Okay. The next one is employment of relatives. You know, I've had some argument where people say, no, with this company, we don't employ relatives. No 2 relatives will work here. But for me, I think if it's not for in the finance department, I don't see anything wrong with relatives working in the same company. If, for example, one is working in, especially departments that will not lead to, there won't be room for them to collaborate and do anything wrong. I don't see anything wrong. This is my own opinion. But like I said, every company have their own policy. So find out what will work in your own industry, because there are some industries that there are definitely reasons why they will not want to take someone and take their relative. There are definitely reasons. So equal opportunity, affirmative actions, induction procedure. What is the company's induction procedure? Next one is the human resource planning, the job design, job evaluation, the transfers. Is the company responsible for transfers? Is the company going to be responsible for the cost of transfer, accommodation in the new location? Is the company going to be responsible for, you know, some company they will say, okay, there's transfer allowance if you relocate. Okay, if you relocate to a new place for a period of 2 months, the company will be responsible for your feeding and all that, ensure you have accommodation for at least the first year to help you balance and all that. So it's very important you create this in your policy. Promotion, what are the policies for promotion? How long will this person have stayed? What are we looking at for this person to be promoted? Is it about longevity or is it about results? Okay, part-time employment. Do we need to employ people part-time? If we employ people part-time, how do we go about it? Bringing them in, how do they work? When do we, how long do they work with us in terms of casual employment? You know, so many things, preparation of budget, forecast, statistics. Like I said, there are some policies that you just need to, you must relate with the relevant people. Like you as the HR trying to create financial policy for a company, you definitely know you can't do it alone. You need to leave the head of finance to create those policies. Why both of you sit down and find out how it will work? For example, there are some companies in their policy for marketing, in their marketing policy, they said no customer should pay into any other account, no cash transaction. We do not allow cash transaction. And I also know some organizations that don't have any issue with cash transaction. All they know is that, okay, if this person gives the staff money, there will be a documentation and the staff goes to pay in the bank, or the customer comes with the money to the office, the staff go and do deposit. So find out what works in your industry and make sure it is well stated. The last part is the demotion. Why should a staff be demoted? What are the conditions for demotion? Is it in the event that the person did not perform well, or is it an attitude issue? Let everything be stated. Condition of employment under industrial relations, discipline, dress code. You know, dress code is particular to different industries, like I've said before. Employee identification. How do we identify our employees? Do we use automated style? When they come in, they place their fingertips on the machine, or do they come in with ID card? How are we able to identify our employees? Another aspect is parking lots. For those, this is not for startups, definitely this is for big companies. Okay, your policy can be that, oh, for parking, staff are expected to park in so place, top management park in so place. But I remember there was an issue about this parking, not in Nigeria. I read it online, how a staff sued her company for, and she called it discrimination. Okay, that why should two staff be working in the same organization, despite the fact that one is more superior to another in terms of the role they play? Why would you separate their parking lots? So it's very important that in making some decisions, like I said, you may not find anything about parking lots in Nigerian labor law, but there are some things you know that may cause issues in your organization. Try to avoid them. You don't want to be seen as a HR that is confused. You don't want to be seen as a HR that is biased. You don't want to be seen as an HR that is tribalistic. Okay, there was a time a CEO called me. He wanted to use our organization for recruitment, and he said he doesn't know what is wrong with his HR. The HR is just employing only Yoruba staff. And, you know, I found it funny because in her own terms, she may, I didn't have an opportunity to ask the HR in person, but probably she had a reason for targeting only her tribal people. So, but the MD was upset because, aside the fact that he was not Yoruba, sorry to mention a tribe, he was trying to, he felt she was trying to turn his organization to become a community. So it is very important that in doing that, even in recruitment, it's very important that you avoid every form of discrimination. Okay, if your company is known that, oh, when people send in CV, the only ones that will be called are the Adetoyes and the Oluwafemis, then you already have a problem, because mind you, everything you are doing as the HR is a branding for the organization. Everything you are doing, both from the policy, the way you treat staff, the way you treat customers, you are creating a brand, you are giving the company a name. So that is why it's very important that even as much as you want everything to work, sit down, imagine yourself not at the top, but imagine yourself to be the lowest level in the lower cadre of staff, and imagine yourself having to go through all those laws where they say, oh, staff, top management eats here, directors eat here, then the cleaners and the whatever, drivers, this is where they eat. Try as much as you can to avoid any form of discrimination while you are creating your policies. Though Nigeria, yeah, we are in Nigeria and some things are just there, you know, but we are coming to a stage where staff will come to understand their rights and be able to sue for what they feel is illegal. Now, talking about attendance, it's very important you have that. What are the conditions for employment? Under condition of employment, your attendance, the working hours, do you work hybrid, do you work remote? Now, I like using an example a lot because examples help me to convey my message. You know, I heard of an MD who said that so long as you are working in his organization, you don't have the right to switch off your phone, even if it's weekends. And I don't want to say I'm surprised because it's common in startups. They feel when you are working with them in startups, they own you. But it should not be. It should not be because you've already given these people working hours, Mondays to Friday. The weekend, they have the right to enjoy it. So if, for example, you call a staff on a Saturday, let's say by 2 p.m., and the staff did not pick or the phone is off, you don't need to get mad. And that is why I always say it is important that you state it as the HR, because eventually it is you, the HR, the MD will call. Why am I calling this person and he or she is not picking? So as the HR, let them know, even if you don't work physically in the office on Saturday, please ensure we can reach you for vital information or some issues. State it there in your policy or in your, what they call it, offer letter. Let them know they don't have the right to off their phone if that's the way you work. But even as that, it's still also important that you give people some room to rest. You know, I heard one of my HR friends told me one day of how her MD called her to fix a meeting on a Sunday. If it's not in the company policy, it should not be. You can't, and as HR, even when the, okay, let me finish that story. So she now told her MD that, but sir, we don't work on Sundays, and Sunday is their rest. Remember, they are coming to work on Monday. So in the process of trying to explain to the MD was like, no, call them right now. I must have that meeting, this, that. She was not like, sir, it's not stated in our policy. That's okay. If it's not stated in the policy, add it now and send it out to staff. You can imagine, you as the HR, you must be able to explain things in a subtle way to the management. Remember, you are there to stand not just to implement the management's will, but to ensure that things are done rightly. You know, she will now call me that what will she do? I was like, it is not done anywhere, but the only thing I would suggest to you is just call the staff, explain to them that, apologize to them first, tell them that this is a case of emergency. You are so sorry to disturb their Sunday, but that the MD wants an urgent meeting. But please, try to, when you get to work on Monday, so you convince your MD not to add that to that you can't add that to the policy that is against Nigerian labor law. So it is very important that in the, you know, this policy is not only for staff, it's also to hold management accountable so that they don't feel they can wake up and do things the way they want to do. Remember, as the HR, you are in between. You are there to make things right. You are there to ensure compliance on both sides, not only on the side of the staff. Because if the staff realize that all you do is just the management push you, I know how I've been there, I know what it's like. But you just have to be firm and have to look for a subtle way to communicate what you want to say to the management. Okay, talking about grievance handling, disputes, who do they meet? How does it work? Personal tools, equipment, when they are working at home, how do they work? For those of them that are remote workers, you know, somebody can feel because I'm working remotely means I can just on my laptop, leave it on and go and sleep. No, working remotely, depending on what is agreed, is the remote working going to be 9 a.m. to 5 a.m. consistently, or are you going to have 9 a.m. to 11, we have break, we come back 2 to 5. I'm aware that's how Excel works, okay? when they were working remotely, though some of them are even still on remote now. So the thing is, everything must be specified so that you don't blame a staff for not showing up. And in the case where a staff doesn't meet up, you'll be able to use the policy to say, but this was the agreement. In terms of conduct, union membership, divulging company secrets, thefts, what does your policy say about theft? Some companies will say that once there's theft, we investigate. If we can prove this person is guilty, we hand them over to the police, we retrieve your funds, we sack the person. There are so many, you can create yours, however it suits you. Okay, but definitely I know that there is no company that will be ready to absorb a candidate, a staff who has been accused of theft and it has been proven. Now about selling, soliciting on premises. Well, if your company is the type that you guys are very flexible, you can let them be, maybe, but this is really not allowed. This is illegal, really, because this can distract them from duty. Access to premises and security. What's the policy on having access to the premises? I remember when I was in the bank, once you leave the banking hall, once you come downstairs, no matter what it is you forgot, you cannot go back. You can't go back. You will either have to wait till the next day. And I know some organizations too that when you leave something behind in the office and it's something you can't wait till tomorrow, there are so many procedures, so many documents, so many people to call, so many permissions to obtain. So how does yours work? Because it's very important. There are some reasons banks don't allow staff to come in. You just come in and the door is open and you enter. No. When I was with Sterling Bank, when you resume, even if you resume 7 o'clock, you all will gather 7:30. If you, at least you must be up to 5 before the door will be open and you have access to the building. And the moment whoever has the access code opens the door, the security lights will be switched on. Okay, so it's very important, depending on your industry, find out. But if you are just a company that there's no fund lying down anywhere, there are no documents lying anywhere, there's nothing wrong with I'm going to give you a short story about this security issue. You know, there's this issue in the previous place I worked. The accountant, no, not the accountant, the cashier made a complaint because there's nothing like everybody you gather. No, once you come, the security will open, you go in and all that. So she claimed that her desk was broken and somebody made away with some funds and whatever, you know. But the question was, who could have done this? We gathered the cleaners, gathered everyone we felt should be, we checked the attendance, and that's why attendance signing is very important, because it will also help you know who was in the building at such a time. So we called them, and after all the investigation, nobody attested. Nobody, they said, no, nothing like that, nothing like that. We now remembered, okay, facing the account department, said exactly her seat, there is a CCTV camera opposite her seat. Only for us to discover, for whatever reason, she broke it. Up till now, I keep wondering why she had to do that. But really, you can't, when it comes to staff, that's why I say as the HR, you have to protect yourself and protect the company you work with. No matter how friendly you are, don't get so carried away with your relationship with the staff that you can vouch for anybody. Truly, believe me, that is why policies are important. Because when things like this happen, you will know what to do. Because at the least expected time, staff can shock you. Even management can shock you. But when things are written down and there are laws and there are policies for guidelines, everything will go smoothly. Now, for loan, how do you people take loan? You hear cases of staff taking loan. Staff take a loan and they resign the next month. It's not funny. So if your company don't have a policy that says if the staff take a loan, the policy should be that the guarantor must be informed, so that in the event that this person resigns without offsetting this loan, then the guarantor must pay back. Because I've had a case where you call the guarantor was called, and yes, quite all right, in the guarantor form we said any damage, but there was no stated, there's no law that said any loan. So you can update that on the guarantor form, any kind of loan or damage that this staff incurred. Okay, so before you give out loans, what are the procedures? who will approve. You know, it got to a point, the finance department was now complaining to me that, so many people are taking loans. And even their managers are not aware. So I had to create a policy that before you take a loan, your manager will sign, your supervisor will sign, the head of finance will sign, and we need to check also. We need to do a check on your previous credits liability, if you are owing any credit in the past before we give any loan. Okay, preparation of employee contracts, what should be there? Training and development. Who and who trains? Do we outsource our training? Do we get managers in the company to do in-house training, or do we get consultants to train? What are the general approach to training? Is training compulsory, or can can training be going on and another person, another staff is doing whatever they like? You know, I've heard some staff, especially those in marketing, I have a client, they asked me to come by 9 and a training is going on in your department. What I usually ask them is, why do you think whatever it is you are going for is more important than this training? It is this training that will give you the further you need to rise in your department. So why would you deliberately fix a meeting with a client at this time when you can actually reschedule for another time and attend the training? So it depends on your organization. Is training compulsory, or can it be, can anybody attend if they feel like, or can they excuse themselves?
Hello.
Hello. I'm also. I suspect it must be a network.
Yes, the network must be a challenge.
Okay, so I think she has also been taken off. While we wait for her, what are our thoughts so far? Apologies again for the slight itch at the earlier part of the conversation, but things improved much later on. The presentation is quite insightful and very interesting. Let me see if I can open a slide from my hand while we wait for her to come back. Okay. So where was she? Let me see. Okay. I think she was somewhere here. Who can confirm her last slide? Hello, who can confirm the slide she was on before she went off? All right. So somebody is saying, what is the difference between handbook and policy? So who would like to answer? What's the difference between handbook and policy? At the top of my head, a handbook is typically a combination or compilation of different policies amalgamated into one document. Okay, Sheyi Adebola is raising his hands. You have been permitted to speak, sir.
I think you just answered. Handbook is the compilation of policies, which also include the organization, introduction, and probably what the organization do. However, it's not all policies that is embedded in the handbook. Just like our last 5 minutes was talking about policies you create because of issues that come or aftermath of events. Those ones may not easily go into your handbook, but it will be a policy that the organization will make available and circulate. So probably during your review of handbook, that may now be embedded in the handbook. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Adebola. Our facilitator, Madam Adetoye, is back. I can't hear your voice. Can you please speak out, ma'am? Hello, Madam Adetoye. You can't hear me. Oh, our audio is not connected. Okay, our audio is not connected. Hello, ma'am. You need to unmute, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. We still can't hear her. Okay, let's check. Are there other comments or questions? Let me just check the. So Amara is saying, does this mean we have two different employee documents, handbook and policy? So the number of documents is not material in this context, and it can be two, because I know organizations that, apart from the employee handbook, where you have quite a number of policies embedded together, later you may have standalone policy. Maybe there was a COVID-19 policy that was, for example, not in the handbook, and that became a standalone. And you can now be doing other policies, and it may be standalone, and later you can combine everything together and also put it as a handbook. Just remember that an handbook typically has plenty policies, okay, but it may not be exhaustive. Matters may arise and you may need additional policies. If you want later, you can consolidate it, revise your handbook, and then you have one big compilation of policies. So, Tima, don't be fixated on the difference. They are the same thing. Don't try and force a difference where there's no difference. Do you understand? It's like you are trying to, what's the difference between a red apple and a green apple? They are both apples. It's just the colors. The important thing is, did the policies follow the right process? Are they standardized? Are they in line with the law? Whether you have it in the handbook or you have it in standalone policy document. May the Lord give you understanding. Okay. All right. It's like saying between 6 and half a dozen. They are technically the same thing. So Informa is raising her hand. I've enabled you to ask, unmute and speak. Informa. Madam Mary, I'm just holding forth till you come.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, good evening.
Yes,
Good evening, Informa.
good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, my first question is this, regarding the policies. For policies that are not in the handbook, maybe they came up as a result of situations. Now, if you document such policies, do you send it out as a memo, or you just print it out and then inform the employees about it? And then secondly, when the facilitator was speaking, she said something about discriminating against staff. Let's take, for instance, an organization makes a policy that, oh, every employee, whether you're a senior staff or junior staff, whenever you have to go on, maybe out of station to work, the policy says that everybody. Hello, are you with me?
Please go ahead. Your voice was breaking.
Yeah.
Repeat the question,
Okay.
please. Yes.
The second or the first one?
The first question.
Okay, the first one.
Madam,
Hello, are you with me?
is bad. Go on with the second question.
Okay, go ahead with the
I think,
second one.
yeah, the first one was, then the second one, okay, I was painting a scenario. So if everybody is placed on the same, let's assume out of station, your hotel allowance is 40,000, whether you're a senior staff or you're a managing director. Are you with me?
Yes.
If you say discrimination, I feel that for those junior staff, do you know they will get to that position, as in they want to climb up the ladder and still also expect that, oh, we should get better than those who are below us. I want you to throw more light on this discrimination. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for raising that, especially that second question. Talking about discrimination, discrimination doesn't mean depriving people their entitlements. Definitely, even the staff of lower cadre know that their salary is not the same with those up there. So there's no way they will expect their entitlement to be the same. For example, there's no way a marketing executive will expect that her entitlement or her marketing allowance will be the same with a marketing manager. Do you understand? So that at all is not the kind of discrimination I'm talking about. The discrimination I'm talking about are things like saying, okay, this restroom, you cannot use this restroom because you are a female, but you are just a marketer. I'm just giving an example. But in terms of benefits, definitely, there's no organization that places people of different cadre on the same benefits. There are some directors that are entitled to cars. The people working under them are not yet entitled to cars. So if you want to get to that level, you need to work hard for it. So I don't know if I'm clear on that.
Yeah, that's fine. Then the first question.
Okay, the first question, if you notice something that is not going the way it should, you don't need to wait till you have all the issues piled up for you to now create a document. You can send a memo, yes, but you still document it somewhere with a plan that you update the staff handbook over time. So yes, you can call a meeting, tell staff this has been changed. You can also send out a memo. That answers your question.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So I don't know, I'm sharing your slide. Which slide are you picked? Should I go forward or backward so that you can continue? Hello, Mrs. Adetoye. Is it my network or our network now?
I can hear you. Maybe it's a network.
Okay. So do you have other questions or comments or clarifications? Okay. Thank you, Amara. Questions, clarifications, or you want to share insights with respect to this subject matter? Okay. Mr. Adegbola, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, moderator and coordinator. My question, facilitator, please. In a situation where the union are demanding that some aspect of the handbook must be reviewed, believing that it's somewhat not too favorable to them, what should HR do? Second question is, in some situation, the workers, let me put it that way, don't let me put outrightly, expected that you share your handbook review with them before making it a full policy. How do you handle that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I will respond based on my experience and exposure. With respect to the first question, the truth is, in the real sense of it, the unions are representatives of the employees, typically elected by employees. So if they have concerns, it means that employees have concerns. If employees have concerns, as a forward-looking organization and institution, at the very least, call a meeting with them and discuss, ask them questions. What are the concerns? Are the concerns, so for example, they may have multiple concerns, maybe 5 or 4 or 3 or 10. Objectively, don't, with an open mind, don't say because, oh, we've been using the policy for 5 years. Events might have overtaken 1 or 2 things. Things might have changed. So if you listen carefully to the concerns, you may either be able to address the concern and still leave the policy as it is, or you may also see reason that 1 or 2 things need to be slightly modified. Because unless we are saying, in quotes, that the union will always come with stupid ideas, and I don't want to believe that. Many times, like any other group of people, including management, they may be right, they may be partially right, they may be completely right, they may be wrong. But if genuinely they are wrong in some areas, you show them information, you use logic, and you show them why their concerns or claims in those areas are invalid. And where they are right, acknowledge it, and as soon as possible, adjust and amend. I don't always want us to see unions as just people who are stubborn, who just want to be throwing stumbling blocks. Don't forget that if the company folds up, there will be no union. in the first place. That's the first thing. With respect to the second question, okay, you see, generally speaking, when we are doing policies for the people. I typically say this: when the National Assembly in any country are coming up with policy or laws, they just don't say this is the new law and share it. One of the things they do, and they do it even in Nigeria, they will say things like they are doing like a hearing. You will hear, they will invite the public. Do you have comments? They will review or share the draft of the proposed policy or draft, and say if you have any comments, any concerns, any contribution, submit 10 copies of your memorandum. The same thing, when you have a policy, there's nothing wrong in calling a cross-section of the employees, or if it's a unionized environment, to invite them. You can even, for example, do a presentation. This is the policy. We now want to have a policy on remote working or flexi working or punctuality or absenteeism, as the case may be. You provide background on the reason for the change. You provide what you are changing. How would that change benefit employees, benefit the organization, and take feedback and comments. When you take the feedback and comments, you may need to make some slight adjustments, right, left or right. And at the end of the day, by the time it's ratified and is published, even if employees, so to speak, have concerns, because the union have been carried along, they will even be the one to say no, they will own it. Okay. So again, unions are not always looking to criticize or bring down things. Carry them along early and adequately. If what you are doing is reasonable, it will stand the test of time. I can see Chigozim. I will allow you to ask your question, but before you go ahead with your question or comment, Chigozim, Mr. Adebola, please confirm that the response is satisfactory. Madam Mary, if you can hear us, please let us know.
I can hear you.
For the honorarium, you will share it with me. And since you're honorarium,
I definitely will.
Okay, Chigozim, I was asking, ma, are you through with your slide presentation, or do you want to share it yourself, or I should share on your behalf?
Let me continue. Just help me share. Move to the next page. Let me just round up. I will soon round up. I didn't even intend to say this.
Let's quickly take Chigozim. Chigozim, quickly ask your question, please. Or share your comment.
Okay, sir. Okay, good evening. So I want to ask a question. There was a situation in the HR department where I work. There's a policy, an attendance policy, that states that all staff are supposed to use the attendance software to punch in whenever they resume work. But then there's a part-time staff that comes to the office just once in a week. And so the HR usually sends everyone's attendance report to them so that they will see the number of times they were late. And lateness count is usually 3 times in a month, after which deductions apply. So we noticed that this guy did not punch in until last week. So his punching record for 2 weeks was not captured. So a mail was sent to him and the attachment of his attendance record was there. Now the guy replied the HR saying that it was obvious he was in the office for those 2 weeks and that whether he clocked in or out. So in this situation, now since there's already a policy there, in this situation, what is the HR supposed to do?
Okay, if you
clarify. Sorry, sir, can I answer?
Oh, sorry, go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, Chigozie, now is one thing for there to be a policy, is another thing for the staff to be aware that such a policy exists. The question is, he or she aware that such a policy exists? Have you ensured, maybe probably in his or her offer letter, that it was stated that anytime you come in or in the team or her, no? And that is why I always say, as HR, things should be documented. If somebody was following him up, like, okay, who and who were not around this week, if you had noticed around, or maybe he was not around, or he was supposed to be around, somebody should have known he should be around or not.
So I don't know, is it me again? I seem not to hear Mrs. Adetoye.
Yeah, I can hear her.
Okay. No one.
Is around. So the question should be, why didn't he punch her? Please, we have noticed that you don't do. The staff can equally defend himself or herself that he or she is not aware. So is there a or informing this staff or in the process of onboarding? Please, can you answer that? Informed? Was there a documented information about this?
Yes, he was informed that every staff is expected to use the attendance app so that their clock-in time will be recorded. They are always informed of this during the onboarding.
Do you have evidence of this information?
That's the question.
Yes.
If there is evidence of this information,
then you go ahead. That means it's just being stubborn.
I'm paying for when he came, then he can react.
That is it. Then yeah, because you have proven it. Sorry, the network is.
Yes. So for the people raising up their hand, please keep your virtual hands up so that we will come back to you. Let Madam complete the presentation. Please go ahead with
yes. All right, sir. The next page, side, we are through with this. I think the last page we stopped was we are done with this. The other vital. Okay, sorry, go back. I didn't comment on this. Yes, please. Okay, talking about expense reimbursements, okay, under training and development, the HR department makes any expense for consultants or for any other person, does the company reimburse? If you go out for marketing, you hear some companies will say, use your money, will reimburse you. What's the policy? Who are qualified to attend conferences, which departments, assistant with. If you are running your masters, the company will sponsor you tuition fee, or if you're at management level, 50% is on education expenses, knowing that when these staff get more education, they are talking about masters. I'm also talking about other professional qualifications. When this staff gets this qualification, does it lead to a promotion? Yes, sir. So all this, the list is of this to mention some aspects to other vital aspects. Sir, can you hear me? Hello, sir. Vital to have a. Okay, so is HSC policy, sexual harassment. So at this point, I didn't expect that the questions to ask some questions, but I think I can still ask. Can some policies that are not listed, mind? Please, I'll mute like 2-3 people.
If you want to respond, please raise up your hand. So let me start from Deborah. If you are there, you can respond for us, please, since your hand is already up.
I didn't get the question. It was breaking at some point.
It's showing on disclaimer.
Okay.
Question 2. If anyone would like to respond to the question, please raise your hand so that we can unmute. Daniel Akorede, are you available? We can see your handsome face, Oga Daniel. Okay, I think some people are raising. Okay, Sylvia, please. You have the floor. You can unmute yourself, sir.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, ma'am.
Please. All right. So one of the policies I would like to change for my company is the dress appearance policy. If I have although I'm new to this particular company, and so I think because of the type of industry. Now, let me explain what I mean. This particular company is a part of a larger company, a part of a group. So for this particular company, there are certain, is a tech company, and there are some things that might really not apply because, first of all, recruitment is a bit tedious. You are really scouting for people, and you want to relax on certain things. So the policies of the organization is general. That's what they use at the head, like is a holdings. What they use in one company is what they use in all other companies. So, but because this is a tech company, I feel, or rather I'm still working on it, that I recently joined, that we should relax on certain things. People cannot be dressing on suit and tie to come to office, because those guys, they don't farms all of that. They're even telling you they want to work from home. And those times that they are even coming to office, they want to dress freely so that they can comfortably work. So I think that particular dress appearance policy must not be the same with other group or with other companies in the group. So that's my opinion.
Wow, thank you so much. Madam Mary, any response? You need to unmute.
Okay, in respect to what she said, I use Atlantic Exhibition as an example. I mentioned that you don't need to use the you are coming and implementing where you are, that every industry is different. So definitely to wear suits, definitely not, because there are people that are used to wearing jeans and t-shirts. You have different departments like marketers who need to go out there to meet customers, and you have designers, you have those in the technical unit. You can make exception about dress code depending on the department. You can say technical department, you don't wear, it is free, dress down, jean and t-shirt. Customer service in front desk, you are expected to wear suits at least Monday to Wednesday. So what works for you and the kind of industry you are, and don't try to walk around it. Thank you.
Okay. Also, you can benchmark, mention maybe 5 other organizations, especially leading organizations in your industry, and show how they dress. That way, to be obvious to your principals that, hey, if the top 5 organizations in our industry dress this way, why are we the only ones wearing suits? You know, we won't be able to attract talent and the likes. And Abimbola, you have the floor, ma'am.
Okay, good evening. So I just want to quickly answer the question. It's the same thing as the last speaker I just talked about, dress code. If I'm to change anything in my organization when it comes to policy, I would love to change a dress code policy. And that's because for more than a year now, we started hybrid work system. And so apart from that, before we start the hybrid work system, I noticed that, okay, this is how our dress code is, policy is. From Monday to Wednesday, you are not permitted to wear anything that is not official. You have to be like on official dress, even like the shoes and all that you wear. And then on Thursday,
you can now dress casual, and on Friday, you are to wear a native, like any native wear. And so, but the first problem I encountered is that the technical guys who goes offshore, offshore guys, they work with different equipment and all. And then on Mondays and Wednesdays, I see them complaining because of the suit and ties. Most times when project comes in, they can't carry themselves and all. So what I've been doing is that I've been flexible enough to allow them wear their jeans without complaining at all. And then now that there is hybrid working system, I noticed that I now see some of them come in on Thursday with native that was supposed to be for Friday, because we don't go to work on Fridays anymore. And then they tell me like, our native is just at home wasting. So I'm trying to be flexible enough to allow them to come to work on Thursdays with their native, even though it's supposed to be a casual. So I'm just trying to change anything, although I've not really worked on the policy, but I've been using my motive to allow them wear what they can wear to deliver as far as they are delivering. So that's just what I would love to change. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Another person that wants to add something? If you are to change or review, will you review, change, or why? Is there anybody that wants to add? Okay. To source for policies. How do you source for policies? Utilize Google, but it can also guide you. Another one is ask from HR personnel in similar industries. You don't need to copy everything verbatim. Just look out for things that's where in your own company, you pick them up, add to what you have, and resultants. Okay, somebody is saying his hand is still up. Okorode Daniel, please, we are giving.
Hi, good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, good evening, Daniel.
Okay, this is not Daniel. My name is Uju, actually. So I named myself Teknai. So anyways, I've been listening to everything that was said so far. And there is this policy that in my organization currently, we are only open to hybrid work mode to be 2 times in a month. So, and I recently joined them, but I realized that everything that we do in this organization, is practically something that we can also do our own. And part of the part in the organization I understand is that part of our core values involves flexibility at some point. And I've seen situations whereby staff are clamoring for more days for remote work. So what I did was I contacted a few professionals, because before I try to make any changes, I always try to do either benchmarking or make research what other organizations are doing. So I looked for ways in which I could bring out facts and figures and tender it out to organizations. So I have done that, and I brought it out to the MD, but I brought it down to the MD. But from the reception I got, it's looking more like it's not so receptive on their end, despite the fact I've brought out the facts out there. In fact, I've even gone as far as even prepared the employee opinion survey or something. But now it has gotten to the point where they said, okay, they will present it in the management meetings and we'll get the outcome of that draft, if at all it can be implemented or not. Now, my point is, in the case whereby you feel like it's not moving towards a positive aspect, or it might not come out positive, how then do you go about the process or make it work? I don't even know how best I can put it, because I really think it can work, and I think that it should work, but management is not being so receptive to it. So what do you do in this kind of situation now?
Saying, in as much as yes, you are the HR, you have found out what can work and what will not work. Acceptance of any policy you bring up, especially with the management, because remote work is something that is new for us in Nigeria, definitely. It's COVID that brought up this issue of remote work. And some MDs, I bet you, over 85. So if I'm not exaggerating, they are not yet used to this aspect of remote work. You work at home, you come to office. Some of them feel that staff are more committed when they are present in the office. And if you want to look at the truth, actually, because I've even had some people, I've had the opportunity of visiting some staff at home while they are working remote. Is not yet in us. If you talk about a white man working remotely, they already know what is expected because they are, believe me, Nigerian staff, I'm not saying all, I'm saying a good number of them are not yet acclimatized with the remote working. So that must be, I'm just assuming, because I don't know, you didn't tell us why they manage policy, but I'm just assuming based on my own experiences and the MDs I've worked with, believe that when staff are more physically present in the office, that they produce more. It's not every policy you push at once and it will work. There are some you keep revisiting in it up. After some time, just let it die down, you know, keep bringing, come to see reasons with you, but you don't push because the with other things. And there's a way you will keep pushing this. You yourself want to work from home, and they will now start seeing it as, even if the staff are clamoring for it, you should be able to, as much as you can try to change policies, also carry what the MD wants. He's the owner of the company. It's a business, remember. It will not be favorable for us when they work remotely. Push so much, but from time to time, like I said, you can revisit it. There are some things I always tell people: when you want to create a policy, you don't really first discuss with your MD. If I were you, that's his interest. Make sure you catch his attention. Time you raise it in the bigger forum, it will be very easy to have even if it's not these particular policies, when you raise a policy and it's not accepted, don't be discouraged. That shouldn't stop you from creating other functional policies for the company. Anyone that they don't receive now, so that's just my advice for you. So you can just mellow down with it. Did I answer the question? Hello? Hello?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
I hear you. Can't
okay.
Again. Not able to.
Okay.
So, Mr. Sheyi, so do you just want to wrap up because of time?
Oh, yes, because I need to wrap up. But before I wrap up, let me answer this audacious Amara's question. She said, please, should this policy be given to the employees to read them via mail as a memo? Please, any policy you are giving out, make sure the staff sign that they have read it and they understand. And they can claim they did not see it. So make sure, even when you send to their mails, create out time to bring out, let them acknowledge. There must be an acknowledgement form. Okay. So let me go to the next. Let me just round up. Time is the next. We've spent a lot of time. I didn't plan to. Okay, I'm going to quickly. Policy development, inadequate collaborations. Okay, you don't carry people along. Just like what he said last, his boss is now resisting. The causes of policy failure. Why would you make a policy and it fails? Overly optimistic expectation, solution, and it ends up failing. Ineffective communication, inadequate repetitive in-house specialized training for staff and management team. Next, please. Okay, I'm just going to skip this part. I'll make the manual available so that we'll read through. Okay, the stages of policy creation, the phases. The last part is implementation review. You'll go through it. Okay, Sanes, please. Sorry. Okay, how often should policies can review your policies annually or anytime the need arises? Today's training, and I hope we've learned some. This privilege to impart knowledge. I'm really, I feel honored.
Thank you so much, Mark. As we round up, do we have any closing questions for our facilitator? Any question, any burning question? Quickly, raise up your hand. Quickly, we can take maybe 2 or 3 at the maximum. Our time is fast spent. Okay, my brother Akorede Daniel, you have the floor. If you're asking a question, please raise up your hand. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you much. So, can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can.
All right. So, I want to ask a question. Fine. The facilitator asks us if we have any policy that wants to change and why. So I discovered we have a policy on attendance and overtime in my organization. So I now realize it does not favor the drivers. Okay, let me break it down. We have a resumption.
One union sound.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, slightly better.
Okay. All right. So I said reviewing the attendance drivers. Now, then by the time they are closing in the night, probably they went out to work. They are unable to clock out. Now we need to calculate their overtime. Meanwhile, there is no document to show that they actually worked overtime for those days. So, and those who travel on long journey and those who have to drive our expatriate down to their house, by the time they get to the location, they can't come back to the organization to clock out. Now they have come to meet me that we need to review the policy on attendance and overtime. So I'm asking, how can I go about this?
If about your drivers, right? Straight to location. If really they walk over, usually, what I do is location. They must put a, and if not to you, to their, and there's you can get a log where they went to, when location, and get time too as a witness by 8/17. Anything that is not documented, come and they can't come to you. Got there by 9 p.m. No, everything must be done. A logbook. Let them, when, at what point did they get a thumbprint or a sign? We arrived here. Can solve this matter.
So Daniel, check the chat box. The summary of what she's saying is that let them get a physical logbook that their principal can sign when they get to their final destination. At least the signature of that expatriate or their principal will serve as a documented evidence you can reconcile at the end of the week or at the end of the month, that there should be evidence. It is not compulsory that the evidence must be the clocking machine at the office. Imagine you drop somebody at the airport and it's already 11 p.m. You may not need to go back to the office, but at least somebody can sign off, maybe at the residence of the expatriate or of the senior manager, to say, oh, he dropped me at my house at 10:30 p.m. Of course, you can also judge that since it probably doesn't live in the house of the manager, it will also maybe have commute time home so that you can do that. Otherwise, it will frustrate the drivers and they won't be able to help. All right. Daniel, taking the network into consideration, this will be the last comment. Okay, for today, please. Daniel, you can unmute. Oh. Okay, all right. I think we can no longer get it. At this juncture, I would like to thank our capable, able facilitator for today, delectable Madam Mary Adetoye. Thank you so much. I know this was not very convenient. The network was very unfriendly, unsupportive, but your resilience put it through. I also like to thank the over 60, 70 people who joined this session at some point, and the 37 people who are still remaining 2 hours later. Sincerely, your resilience is commendable and laudable. We will share the slides on the various groups so that we can also go through at our leisure and absorb more knowledge. We'll also share it on LinkedIn. Hopefully, if you listen, maybe it may be clearer or slightly more audible, but not to worry. Things like this happening. That's where we are Africans, we are great people who pull through. Join us tomorrow. We'll have another session by 7 p.m. on emotional intelligence for HR people. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Madam Mary Adetoye. God bless you. God bless your family, your home. We appreciate you sincerely.